Hello, good morning. So I've been reflecting this weekend and we're pivoting a bit again. Not like we're not changing the fundamental concept, we're just moving things around a bit because the most important thing that we've discovered here is the ability to organize observable primitives in contexts. So instead of like leaving React contexts and moving global to gain the benefits of observable primitives, like either it's global or it's local, you can still use the React context. And you get this bridge between like you pass in props from React, which are not observable, but they become observable inside the stores or this observable context. And yeah, anyways, so, and the really cool thing is doing this, I realized that we also get a chance to actually compare these different solutions. So here you can see creating, we're going to talk about this later. Here you can see I'm creating this app store using the Impact React signals, which is using the Solid.js signature. And then we can move to Preact, and here you can see how Preact does it. And it has this count out value thing. And then we can look at MobX with its object-oriented approach using a class. And then we have MobX without the class, just using an observable and being more explicit about like action and stuff. And then you have Legend app, which looks like this. And then there might be others as well, right? The point is to have this observable context that you can use to organize your state management. So you're not forced to do it locally or globally. You can now do it on top of the React context. So the question is, how do we organize this? One thing is like, what is Impact React? Should we even call it stores? Should we call it what it is, like an observable React context? And then should we have different packages for, where is it? Store. Yeah. Should it be different packages like Impact React signals? Should the signals of Impact be part of Impact React / signals, or should Impact React only be about, should it be like Impact React / MobX, as you can see here? Or should we really have Impact React is nothing, really? So how should I put this? So Impact React is the observable context. And so we already have this package called Impact React Store, but what if we make Impact React the actual store concept, or we'll call it observable context, because that's really what it is. And then, well, technically it's not, this is also a thing. Technically, it's not an observable context. Opposite of reconciliation. What makes it observable? It's the primitives you put inside it. Opposite of reconciliation. It's just the opposite of reconciliation. What is the opposite of reconciling? Is an alienated context, like estranged context. So like it's hard to find a good word for it, but I think it makes sense to call it an observable context because that's the intention. it's like you're observing the stuff you expose from it. And it's like it's different from like you have reconciliation versus observation. Like I think it makes a lot of sense to use that term. Anyway, so that is Impact React. We'll remove the Impact React store package, and then we'll introduce Impact React dash mobex, Impact React dash preact, Impact React dash legend app, and Impact React dash signals. And the reason we do that is so none of them actually depends on Impact React itself. It's just a like common concept. And the reason we separate them into packages, I thought about doing this like nested thing, but the problem is that they will expose the same functions to create the context. So when you actually use it if you install Impact React and you want to like create a mobex store and you write create store, you'll get suggestions on the other stores as well, and they have the same name, and that's bad. The same for like Impact. If we put all the signals behind there, like Preact also has a signal primitive, and then that is confused with this one, right? So they have to be different packages, but I think that's the best way to organize it. And then when people visit the site, they'll understand immediately that this is about the context. It's about giving an alternative React context for observable primitives. That's basically what it is. And it's more maintenance in the sense that like we have these different packages that needs versioning. But it's like 6 lines of code in each of those packages. So the code isn't what's being maintained. It's just if we make some change, then we kind of have to yeah. But we're gonna actually go ahead and we're first gonna like write the I like to do that sometimes. I write the documentation first. So observable, we're gonna name it what it is. Where the hell does this come from? Is this an image? No. Is that from the config maybe? Look at that. Impact React. Should be like this. Impact React. Yeah, let's just do it like that. Okay, the best of both worlds. Use your favorite observable primitive to manage state. Use React's reconciliation model to manage UI. Observe state from any. Let's see. Where are we? Here we are. Observe state from performant and accessible. Nested state management. Provide Okay, let's, how should we put this? Observe state from any parent. Like the point of performant and accessible is that we're using observable primitives are more performant and gives a better developer experience for complex state management. Like that's kind of the thing here, is like this is why we move to these observable primitives. It doesn't necessarily have to be complex even. Like for me, it's been very much related to complexity. You can get very far with React just using React. Well, you can't get far, but you get some I want to say just let's call it accessible developer experience for state management. That's the point. Like it's more accessible to use observable primitives for state management because you don't have the reconciliation loop to consider, like the dependency arrays and stale closures and mount unmount issues. Like you shouldn't do data fetching in components and so on and so on and so on. Nested state management built on React and provide state management with observable props and consume provide state management. How should we put this? Built on React. Receive observable props and provide state management to any nested component. To any nested component and context. Receive observable props and provide state management to any nested component and observable context. Anyways, we can change that. And then for install impact React, you would do install impact React. So that will be impact React signals. Maybe we should put it like, how should we put this? Impact React signals. Observable primitives designed for React. Maybe we don't even need this. Designed for React. I don't want to like take, how does this look? Oh, that's silly. Oh, maybe we can I do like, is there like a, can I do this? Oh, this is nice. Observable primitives designed for React. And then we have MobX. So this would be like MobX is observable mutation, observable mutations, and objects. Optionally object oriented. And then we have preact signals, which would be let's just call it preact. Impact react. Do they have like a name? Preact. It's kind of annoying that they call it preact signals. I guess they're only calling, what do they actually call it? How do you install it? Yeah, signals core. Well, I guess we wouldn't have to call it this. Do we even need to write this? I shouldn't, like, I don't want to give like an opinion on this. I just want to say this is what you can use, and this is how you use it. And then it's, the point is that I don't want to build something that needs to convince people to build their apps in a different way, like in the sense that they have to buy into the primitives, the observable primitives. I just want to give people the opportunity to organize what they already have in a better way. I need a link here, so this is kind of weird. Yeah, and we can't do it like this. How should we do this? Should really just be a list. It would be so nice if you could actually put links into. Does it support that? Like, that would be so cool if you could actually do this. Yeah, but that will be weird, right? Oh. Yeah, let's just impact react signals. So this will be a GitHub whatever. Impact react MobX. And then we can do like MobX like this. Yeah, this is better. Impact react, preact signals. Interesting thing is that you don't really need, it's gonna look exactly the same. so they don't like need to be getting stuck in details. Oh my god, I hate this. You know what? Let's just, what was it? Preact JS signals core. Impact React. What did we have? Mobex, Preact, Legend app. What was the? That looks weird. Legend app. There we go. It wasn't oh. Yeah, let's, you don't really care about this. Let's just do this. And impact react signals, that's like should be documented here. So API reference would of course be like cleanup context. And I guess we should call it create observable context. And then you have like signals derived. I wonder if VPress supports like, can I separate the API reference? VPress guide. Use routing. Oh. Shouldn't use .md. I wonder. Press separate. Markdown extensions. Yeah, but this is more like yeah, I shouldn't get hung up on that. It could just be, I can just do the store stuff here, and then we'll just reference, or maybe it should just be part of the package. Yeah. Okay. So impact react signals, that will be impact react. Like this. So we'll document the actual signals and stuff just on the repo. And then this will be a general purpose. Oh, can remove this. We don't need this configuration anymore. And then the debugger. So this would also be part of, actually be part of the, let's see. It's kind of weird. I don't like the links here. Ugh, I don't like this. Why don't I like this? Docs. Documentation. I'm getting stuck on this now. I don't know why I get so up. This is why I'm watching this video on, what's his name? Peter is Dutch, I think. Peter Levels. Who's the ultimate hacker. Like, it's all about like pushing ideas out and validating them. And he has such a hacker mentality. He uses very basic concepts like TechWise, jQuery and HTML, like the bare necessities. But it's not only the tech; it's like the mindset of, okay, let's just put a Stripe button in there and manually handle payment for the first users and just test it. Like, he has the ultimate hacker startup mentality. But the point is, he thinks that's fun. Like, he has this intrinsic motivation to do this. I don't have that. Like, technically, I could, like many others, can do what he does. But he has this amazing motivation to just run through these, and even getting, like, having the creativity around these ideas and identifying ideas worth trying, and pushing himself to like scope down, and it just has an amazing innate nature of scoping down and validating, and only does what's actually necessary, which is very impressive. But I've had like ideas for things, and I also built a few things, but I always get stuck. Like, you see how I'm doing now? I'm getting stuck in like completely unnecessary details at this point. And then I don't like the way I built the app, so I get stuck in, oh, maybe I should try to do state management like this, or maybe I should try this thing or this thing. Like, I don't get motivated by giving value to to people, which is very interesting. But I just don't, and there's value in that as well. Like, I get more motivated by giving value to developers, or at least try to give value to developers so they can build valuable things for people. I just don't like this whole concept of like metrics, money, like, yeah, I just don't like it for some reason, or I'm not motivated by it, I should say. Yeah, it's interesting, and I haven't really come to terms with it yet. Impact React MobX, but yeah, so Impact React MobX. How should we do this? This is so annoying. So I want to link to the documentation of the observables. Can't believe this. Why is this so difficult? Yeah, but we're gonna do it like this, okay? And then we have Impact React Preact signals, and then we have the last one, which is a legend app. Legend app. Cool. Oh, you know what we can do? We can say, we can just say MobX, Impact React, Impact React signals. Preact signals. That's nice. Preact signals. And legend app state. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. Is it called that? Legend app? I think it's just legend app. Yeah. Legend app. Not sure. Legend app, something like that. Mobile experience signals, legend app. Do they call it like? Whatever. Impact React legend app, Impact React, Preact signals. Maybe we should just call it Preact. Impact React Preact. Yeah, funny. And then we're gonna yeah, we can have the presentation here. I'm gonna change those, of course. But this is it. Like, you go to Impact React to get observable React context, the best of both worlds. Use your favorite observable primitives to manage state. Use React's reconciliation model to manage UI performance. Observable primitives are more performant and gives an accessible developer experience for state management. Nested state. Oh, why is this happening? I wonder if it's because I'm zooming in. Nested state built on React context, receive observable props, and provide state management to any Nest component and observable context. Receive props and provide. Yeah, maybe we don't have to be so explicit. Nested state management. Receive props and provide state management. And state management. That's the thing. And yeah, receive props and provide state management to any nested component and state management. That's kind of a lot of state management. Yeah, I'm not quite feeling it today. I notice I'm kind of just, my brain is just kind of, I'm trying to stand up and it's just tipping over my brain. So I kind of get stuck in all this silly stuff. But you can argue both ways here. Like, should we create something like integrated and very like explicit new concept, or should it be potentially more confusing? But I just know that this is more important than all the signals and stuff that we developed. So we need to do this. Receive props and provide state management. I don't like the why nested state management. As observable. as observable primitives and provide use the provider to expose yours. Use the provider to expose your state management and receive props as observable primitives. To expose your state management in React and receive props as observable. Something like that. Cool. Observable React context. So deep dive. And now we need to change this. This is kind of boring, I guess. But this is more for me to kind of talk through what I'm thinking. So let's call it observable context. And then change this thing. Observable context. Oops, that doesn't exist anymore. Observable context. So let's write about this. Observable. When the React context doesn't work for us, we have a tendency to replace it with global state management. Doing so definitely solves friction, but we also leave something behind. With Impact React, we'd rather make the React context compatible with the performant and accessible primitives we use for global state management. Impact React implements an observable context. It is a function with the same mental model. We express this context as a function. It is the same mental model. You return a public interface for components and other observable context. The difference is that we're not reconciling. This function only runs once. Yeah, and you can call it App Store. You can call it whatever you want. The difference is that we're App Store. Impact React supports several observable primitives. The observable context is just a mechanism for you to continue using React context and create a bridge between the world of reconciliation and your observable primitives of choice. So let's see how this would look. This would be it's really called like Impact React signals. But yeah, we can call it impact. That's fine. So this will be Impact React signals, where I think it should really be create context. I want to emphasize that this really is, but you can still call it App Store, right? You can call it stores if you want to do that, but technically it's a context. And I think we're going to call it observable context to not conflict with the create context import from React. Cool. And then here you would say impact react preact, create observable store. But here you would, of course, import the signals from the actual preact signals package. While for impact react signals, it will be the same package. Impact react mobex create. Oh, did I call it create observable store? Oh my god. Cool. And again, these packages, they only actually import impact react, and then they configure the props for the context. Now, so should we call it context or should we call it store? The thing is that context is kind of, when we talk about context in practice, we talk about the thing that we're exposing on the context. Context is really like an injection mechanism. So the thing is, when you create a context in React, you don't really... Oh, I think it should be like this. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, and then we have... So the reason I have two versions of Mobex is because Mobex typically has this approach. But you might have... This is also the problem with Mobex, is that you kind of have this class-based approach for your stores, and then you have this functional approach for your components. But what you can do is you can make Mobex more of a functional thing by doing this. And then it will also be more natural to do like cleanup and reactions and stuff like that. You can still do it here. Like you can do a cleanup where you like dispose of the store. You dispose of the store, and then maybe you have like a reaction that you created, then you dispose of that reaction, for example. So you have like a single dispose mechanism. That is perfectly fine. And then in the constructor of the class, you can still like provide certain things using the context function from impact react, like the back channel context between the stores. It's very interesting because you can just use some other store, use the global store on the prop here, because this is part of like the initialization of the context. So that's perfectly fine. And you can use cleanup also in the constructor if you want to do that. But it's a little bit of a mind bender, I think. Like personally, I would prefer doing it like this. There's a lot of overhead to classes, like especially the this keyword. Like what's private, what's public, like everything's private is also like you have two levels of privacy. It's a lot of stuff. While here it's just code. It feels more like, anyways. Create observable context. The hook return from create observable context includes the provider. Yeah. Okay, cool. let's quickly read through that. So when the React context does not work for us, we have a tendency to replace it with global state management. Doing so definitely solves friction, but we also leave something behind. With Impact React, we rather make the React context compatible with the performant and accessible primitives we use for global state management. Impact React implements an observable context. We express this context as a function. It is the same mental model as a hook. You return a public interface for components and other observable. And other observable context. The difference is that we are not reconciling. This function only runs once. Impact React supports several observable primitives. The observable context is just a mechanism for you to continue using React context and create a bridge between the world of reconciliation and your observable primitives of choice. It's very interesting. I was looking at Svelte 5. And it's very appealing to be able to, and I think the closest thing to like Svelte in React world is really MobX. If you think about the state primitive of Svelte, the thing about Svelte is that they're actually able to, like here I'm like creating this state thing because you can't put just a number in here. If you do that, it becomes like a box. Instead, you have to do like get and set. So the thing about Svelte is that they actually remove. What I like about Svelte 5 is that they emphasize that you have observable primitives because they have the state primitive you use. But from that point, you can just use normal JavaScript, which is very interesting. So with Svelte, you could actually have an observable of 0. You could have the count here. You could just return. Actually, you can't do that. That's true. You can't just return the count. You have to do the same thing, get count, and then return the count. Which makes sense, really. But yeah, the thing about MobX is that you have to use this action thing. I really don't like that. And you can turn it off. I think I've said it before. I think it was a mistake of MobX to introduce that complexity because that led to having to do this flow concept. Like you use generator functions instead of async functions just to avoid doing mutations outside of the, like inside the components, which I think is a bit silly. Maybe it is a real problem in bigger teams, but I'm not sure. I think it's more of a principle than an actual problem, and it has led to unnecessary, like potentially unnecessary complexity in MobX. Anyways, I'm digressing. Yeah, so all of this is fine. The hook return from create observable context includes the provider. So at this point, it might not seem like anything's different, right? Because you could have just, so for example here, you could have just created the app store and you could have done new app store and provided it on a normal React context, right? That would be just fine. But that's what we're going into here. It's maybe I should call it something else. The store can receive props from React. The props are received as the configure. What was I doing? Yeah, observable context. Nested. this isn't really about nesting. It's really about yeah, and we should also, the hook return from is not only available. We should really insert like it really is nested contexts. I think it's fine that we call it nested context. Rename nested contexts. Nested contexts. But I have to see if any colleagues are. No, it's fine. Let's see. Nested contexts. As Impact React builds on the existing React context, you will be able to instantiate state management related to specific pages, features, or even for each item in a list. The store can receive props from React. These props are received as observable, as read-only observable primitives. This is because React might update the props through reconciliation. You can use the props at any time inside the store and also expose them from the store to be used in nested components or contexts. The hook return from create observable context is also can be used in both components and other observable contexts. Let's see. So we're gonna do this group thing again. Let's see. How did that work? So we have code group. Sorry. Oh, not like this. So let's take this. Let's remove that and let's put that in here, and then we're going to add the other ones as well. So this would be import cleanup from Impact React. No, sorry, Impact React signals. And then, yeah, create observable content. I don't think we actually need to do that. We can just remove that line because that's not interesting anymore. And then we have observable auto run. So here we can say const global store, use global store. So we're gonna import use global store, oops, from / global store. You can use parent observable contexts. Cool. Yeah, and this just shows that we want to use it as an initial count, and then we have accessing the props, we'll observe them. Oh, but this is MobX, right? This should be okay, let's just copy this to, let's see, this would be MobX, and then let's look at it as MobX. So this would be you will import this from Impact React MobX cleanup. Then you have MobX, you have global store, blah blah blah. You can use parent observable context. Let's just, the initial count is observable, but we only want to use it as an initial count. And then here we need to do cleanup, right? Because we want to dispose of the auto run if this store unmounts. Accident props will observe them, and then return. Oh, this shouldn't be count. This should be get count, return state.count. We expose access to the user on this this store as getting the user from the props. That means if React reconciles and updates the user, pass to this store, any consumer of this store, this store user property will update. So the point there is to show how props act. Like, even though I say they are observable, like, it's not obvious what that means. But what it means is that you can just use the value as you instantiate the store. You can use it with any effect primitive, like auto run or reaction. Or you can actually just make a getter on your public interface from this store and then return it. So any nested component accessing like appstore.user would actually observe that if the parent component of the provider here will actually change the user reference. Yes. So let's copy this and let's make an impact version of this. So that will be a signal and effect. So that means we still do that, but we're going to use count and set count, signal 0. And again, now we actually need, like previously, actually here we can just do effect because it will implicitly use cleanup. That's like one of the benefits, I guess. Impact, this effect will automatically clean up. Yeah, that's fine, right? Because you have like primitives built for Impact React, you can do things like this. And then we have get count. We don't have to do that. We just do get, count. And then for the user, we have to call it. Yeah, then we have to remember that. We need to actually call it here. So this would be initial count. Cool. So that's how it looks like with impact. And then we really have MobX 00. And this is the thing, like these are different ways to express the same thing, and we have preferences. So we're gonna do class app store instead. Oops. And then it's interesting. We can say global store equals use global store. That is very interesting. So I guess that will be private. And then we have, yeah, now we can do count equals 0. Yeah, we didn't. Okay, we should probably have, because for MobX, that's like create observable context. Let's just add it to the end there. Use App Store. App Store. Create observable context. And then we'll do the same here, but here we're actually gonna do it like this. Did we call it app? Well, let's just do arrow function. It like in this case, it will become an anonymous store, but I don't care. We don't really have a debugger for this for MobX, at least not at the moment. Make auto observable new app store. Oh fuck, did I go on the wrong one? Oh, fuck. Anyways. Doot. And then doot. Like so. And again, like this is really bringing a lot of value, being able to like tab through the different solutions out there and kind of reflect on how it works. Again, this is not providing any value to any end user. And maybe this is just, what's it called? When you make something more, yeah, gaslighting. I don't know the term. Like maybe I'm making the problem worse. Like people, we shouldn't have all these different solutions. Like there should just be, yeah. It like the point is to the end user, it doesn't matter if you use object-oriented MobX or functional MobX. Like it's kind of ridiculous when you think about it in that perspective. But at the same time, it's about like developer productivity. And if you're a team that wants to do object-oriented, you've used object-oriented MobX, but you have had some friction with state management because it's only global. Then it makes sense. And even maybe you haven't, maybe you've been using something else and then you see, oh, or maybe you use object-oriented MobX and oh, with this concept I can use more of a functional closer to React MobX, which makes it easier to onboard developers, for example. I don't know. But I kind of want to, what's it called? Come to terms with, it's very arguable how much value this is actually providing. But for me, I'm just very motivated by it. And I can't help myself. And do I have to defend that? Oh, we're getting really introspective here. I don't know. Anyways, so we have get count, and then we have get user. And here we would kind of have to, what would I have to do here? Oh, so this one's a bit more tricky. So the constructor could get the props, and we would kind of have to, we'd have to return this props user actually, and then constructor would be private props. Yeah, and then let's see, we need to remove. You can use parent observable contexts. We just have to move this stuff around. Oh, yeah, and this will be this props initial count. It's observable, but we only want to use it as an initial value, whatever. Yeah, and then we have auto run. And then we have this. So you would have to kind of do this. If you want to pass in props to this thing, we have to do props and props. So the point is that you store a reference to the actual props object, because that will stay the same here. The thing that and even like the properties will stay the same. It's more with MobX, it's a getter. Each property is a getter, which returns an observable version of that prop. But this is very interesting. And then we have the MobX version, which is fine. So now you kind of see how doing the object-oriented approach looked really nice in the first example, but as complexity increases, it starts becoming a little bit more off compared to just doing the functional one. Anyways, and then we have Preact. Maybe we should just copy the one. No, we shouldn't. So Preact. Impact React, Preact, and here we would have signal, and I think they call it effect. Preact signals. Effect, and does it return a disposer? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that would be basically the same thing. Preact.js signals core. You can use blah blah blah, and here we can have count equals signal initial count, and here we actually have to do dot value, because here we are making it well, no, we're not. So this should actually be initial count, because it's a read-only version. So it's implemented as a getter. You shouldn't, like, if you expose value, you would be able to change the prop, but that doesn't make any sense. So it would kind of look the same as and then we have effect, accessing the props, we'll observe them, and then we have count.value, and then here we just have props.user. Nice. Yeah, that's it. And then we have legend app. And what's interesting, like the way legend app works differently is, let's see, legend app, is that they have this mix between MobX and it's kind of like MobX, but you never, you don't have proxies. So it's interesting. You have proxies on the way into the state, but you don't have proxies when you extract state. So you don't implicitly observe anything. You explicitly get the state you want to observe. But on the way in, you can still just point to an array and push on it and do whatever you want. It's very interesting. And it made me think about, like, is there a version of MobX without proxies? But I don't think you can really do that without some sort of transpilation. Yeah, some sort of transpilation. Because the way you would have to do that, like, you wouldn't have to return the proxy. Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know, like, you kind of have to have that proxy there. But you really don't want it when you... But the whole point of having mutable state is that it's a different paradigm than React. But still, it's so convenient. So incredibly convenient. Like you can just express, I want to change this thing. And it works fine with, when you have observation, it works fine. Like React will reconcile exactly where it should. Much better than not like doing an immutable approach. But yeah, maybe here again, like the principle of React is immutability. But in practice, it doesn't have to be that. Yeah, anyways. Blah, blah, blah. You can use parent upset the initial count. So here we have to use, what is it? Legend app state. And this has observable, and I think they're showing observe. They call it observe. And I guess it also returns. I would expect it to return a disposer. I'm just gonna guess that it does it. And then we have observable of state count props initial count, and here you have to do get. Like we could implement it as just doing this, but it's not how, like it's a computed, that's the point. The same for Preact, I think it's also computed. We're gonna explore that. But it needs to be something you kind of, like these primitives should reflect the observable primitives you're using. So also for but maybe we should do that. Maybe we should implement the props equal so that under the hood, the getter will actually return the getter will return the underlying implementation. Like it would actually simplify. Maybe we should do that. So props are equal. And it doesn't really matter. Like it just kind of works. Like if you use the prop in observe, it will observe it. If you just use it here, it will just be the initial. There's really no reason to make them different. And then we could even say, let's say, nested context. The store can receive props. These props are received as read-only observable primitives. Let's expose them from the store to be used. The props object. The props object has getters for each prop, and which returns as an observable primitive. The props are read-only and can be used with okay. This is because React mounted browser. You can use the props at any time. You can use the props. You can use the props with observable primitives to compute the with observing primitives like computed effects, and also expose them from the store to be used in nested components or context. Okay, this is good. This props object has getters. It's a getter, has a getter for each prop, which returns an observable primitive for that prop. This is because React might update the prop through reconciliation. You can use the props with observing primitives like computed, and also expose them from the store to be used in this. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do that. So we're not going to do this, but it will, under the hood, this is a getter, which does the call on the getter. I think that makes sense. It diverged, like the reason I did that initially is because I wanted it to be clear when you do observation. But that's only kind of rule for impact signals. It's not really a rule for any of the others. So I think it's better to just make it simple and say that these props, these props, they are observable. So when I use this in an effect, it will rerun because it's observing access to these props. And this will also be observable because it returns, because it observes the actual signal behind the getter of user. Anyways, glad we got that sorted. And then blah, 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 clean up auto run. So it will be the same. What's this? Preact? It will be the same for preact. And then for legend app, we're going to do the same. They have observed, so this will work exactly the same. And now count will actually be count.get. Oh, shouldn't this be count? And then this is, yeah, props user. Cool. So the point is, like, with this user, what I'm trying to emphasize here is that you might be asynchronously resolving a user from some parent component, and then your app can't really run without the user. So you pass that resolved async user, maybe use some suspense or whatever, you pass that into the app store here. And that user will always be there, right? But you might also update the user. And if the user updates, it will flow through. Like, it updates at the top where the original user came from. The provider of the store reconciles with this updated user. It sets the user, and anything that's observing the props.user, it being in this case through this getter from a nested component or context, will actually update, which is nice. Okay, I think this is fine. Learn nested contexts. As impact builds on the existing React context, you will be able to instantiate state management related to specific blah, blah, blah. So you can receive props from React. This props object has a getter. Oh, look at that. As a getter for each prop, which returns which returns an observable primitive for that prop. This is because React might update the props through reconciliation. You can use the props with observing primitives like computed effect, etc., and also expose them from the context to be used in nested components or context. Observable. Well, it's context. Like you can use it in a normal React context, actually. The hook return from create observable context can be used in both components and other contexts. Both React context and observable contexts. Okay, so with impact, create a cleanup signal effect. We have our global store, blah, blah, blah. The initial count is observable, but we only want to use it as an initial count. Accessing the props will observe then. This effect will automatically clean up. Blah, blah, blah. Count, get user, blah, 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 blah. The provider store can become, but also, okay. I've kind of said that already. Another aspect of scoping state management is that global state management typically defines null values for uninitialized state. With strict null checking enabled, you're likely to find your code having many non-functional if statements to please the type checker. Because a context is only initialized when its dependent state is available, passed through props. Passed as props. Nice. And then lifecycle. React has two mounting phases, the render phase and the commit phase. The stores. Okay. Let's the observable contexts are instantiated during the render phase as the exposed state consumed by the components. When the commit phase has been performed and the components has been mounted, the provider for the observable context can unmount. Impact React store look into its related provider component and allows you to intercept when its related provider component unmounts. This is called cleanup. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, let's just create an example for all of them. Since our store is just a function scope, we're free to do but this could have been a subscription or something you need to solve when the store and mount. I want to add, I'm gonna take a break, but we are gonna since our observable context is just a function scope, comma, we are free to do state management beyond just the state we expose to components. You can force an observable context to remount by using the key property on the provider. For example, you can use the ID of a user to ensure that all state management related to the current user will be disposed. Yeah, that's enough. And then we're gonna push this. I'm gonna commit more docs, and then I'm gonna take a break. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna do any more streaming today, but this was kind of boring, I guess, listening to me. But at least we have a direction here now. And again, maybe this isn't as clean as the previous approach, but I think it provides more value to the community. Yeah, and that's the most important thing. Cool.